It is displacement sensors, which is used to measure the movement of a system. So there are different types of displacement sensors. They are potentiometer sensor, uh, strain gauges, LVDT, that is a linear variable differential transformer, capacitive element based sensors. These are the four types of displacement sensor that we are going to discuss today. Okay. So for your information, I already gave a assignment on topic pressure sensors. You have to write the basic working principle and the diagram related to each of the pressure sensors. That is manometer sensor, vacuum pressure sensor, Bourdon tube pressure sensor. Okay, I already uploaded it to you. Okay, now coming to today's topic, displacement sensors. Uh, the potentiometer is the first type of displacement sensor. So when we consider potentiometer as a sensor, it is used to find the displacement as well as position of the objects. Okay, it can also be used for finding the position, but it considered as a displacement sensor. Okay, so when we come into potentiometer sensor, the working principle is uh, written here, that is output voltage is proportional to the displacement of the slider. That is the working principle of what? Potentiometer. Actually it means uh, the variable resistance transaction is the uh, principle. Principle name is called variable resistance transaction. That is actually nothing but the output voltage is proportional to the displacement of the slider. Okay. So there are two types of potentiometer sensor. One is used for a measurement of linear displacement, and the other is used for the measurement of angular displacement. Okay. Uh, the potential. So we can see that there is a there is output voltage is measuring here, and input voltage is given here. So with you can see here is an element. Okay, I think it is visible to you. It is written as brush. Okay, so it is also called wiper. Okay, so when the wiper moves along the track, that is in case of linear, this is the track, linear track, and in case of angular, it is this circular is the track. When wiper moves along the track to measure the displacement through proportionally dividing the input voltage. Actually, uh, the you can see that the output is taken across one end of the this resistive material, and other end is connected to the wiper, so that when current is drawn from or passed through the circuit, you can see that it will goes through the lower resistance path, so that when the dial is at a certain, imagine it is at a certain location. In case of rotary, I am explaining. In case of rotary, you can see that the dial is at a certain location. It is actually touching here. So when it touches here, the current will flow from this end, and it reaches to the wiper and get back into the other end. That is how the uh, current passes. It always passes through low resistance path. So when a dial, that is when a certain angular displacement is showing, it is actually the resistance is actually reaching at this level. If the dial is little more rotated, if imagine if the dial is at this position, that is wiper is at this position, you will get a resistance corresponding to larger length. Okay, so the resistance will get increased. Similarly, if it is if rotate in anti clockwise direction, the resistance will be lesser. So by measuring the resistance indirectly, by measuring the output voltage, you can find the displacement of your dial. In case of angular motion, you will get angular displacement, and in case of linear motion, you will get linear displacement. That is the basic working principle of, or basic working of a potentiometer sensor. Actually, the basic working is based on the potential difference across any length of the wire of uniform cross section and uniform composition is proportional to the length when a current is kept constant. That is, I already told it, that is a variable resistance transduction definition. Okay, when the potential difference across any length of a wire of uniform cross section and uniform composition, it is proportional to, that is, the potential difference is proportional to its length. That is how we are measuring. Initially, it was at this length. When it little more rotates, it will become this much length. So when length get increased, it is proportional to the output voltage. That is how we are measuring the displacement. Okay, I think it is clear to you. We can, this is a actual diagram of a potentiometer, which is angular, used for measuring the angular displacement. So you can see components here. It is a for your for familiarizing the device only. I am including this figure. You can just understand what it looks like. This is the actual potentiometer sensor. Okay. So these are the terminals, and this is the potentiometer actually, and the coil spring is there, and string or cables are there, and the direction of rotation. Okay, this is how the potentiometer actually looks like. Okay, but for your exam point of view, you only need to understand how the potentiometer is working and on what principle, and define two types of potentiometer. It will, if you write about these two basic potentiometers, you will get full mark with the help of these two diagrams. Okay. So moving on to the application, it is used in potentiometer sensors are used for the displacement measurement of, or what position location of elevators and liquid level assemblies, forklift trucks, automobile throttle controls, and robotics. Okay, so these are the applications of a potentiometer sensor. Okay, so moving on to next displacement sensor, it is called strain gauge. Okay, it is called strain gauge. Actually, in real life, it will look like this. Okay, it is nothing but a small device, very small device. So uh, it is used for measuring the pressure, force, and strain parameters. Okay, parameters like pressure, force, strain can be measured or sensed using this type of device, that is strain gauge. So this device used to measure the strain of an object. Okay, we are giving importance to the strain. Okay, so it works on the equation delta R by R equal to G times epsilon, and G is the gauge factor. It is already kept as constant for a certain device. Okay, so moving on to the principle. Before that, it consists of a thin metallic resistance foil. This is the actually the thin metallic resistance foil. It is actually 6 micrometer in length. Okay, you have to understand it is, its length is just 6 micrometers. Okay, so when this metallic resistance foil is fixed into a base metal which is made of plastic film, and its length is nearly 15 micrometers. Okay, actually you can imagine how much a micrometer is. That is, it is very small device. You cannot simply see with your naked eyes. So this is a very small type of device, but it is useful. Okay, then the lead wires are, you can see that there is two lead wires taken from the resistance foil. So the two lead wires are soldered to a silver clad copper wire with nearly 2.5 millimeter length. You can see that with the help of silver wire, silver cladded copper wire is used to connect these two connection leads. Actually, these two leads are connected to a copper wire which is cladded with a silver material. Okay. So that wire's length is just 2.5 millimeter. So you can imagine how much will be the size of the strain gauge. Okay. So the coming to the working principle of the strain gauge, the resistance of the strain gauge changes when force is applied. That is, I already told that this entire setup with the resistance foil as well as plastic base, the entire setup is subjected to either force or a certain type of pressure. Then the principle is the resistance of the strain gauge changes when force is applied. That is, when we apply some force on this strain gauge, the resistance of this entire material will get changes. Okay. And this change will give a different electrical output. You know that when resistance changes, it will shows different output voltage. So that's how we are getting uh, we have a chance to get how much the force is exerted on this device. By calibrating that force, you can simply find the effect. Okay. So simply finding the change in resistance is not enough. So by getting changing resistance, this resistance is actually what? Strain gauge. The Rx represents the resistance of strain gauge. The change in resistance uh, which is occurred is connected to a Wheaton's bridge. So from it we can actually find the change of resistance, or we can simply use a voltmeter or galvanometer to find the potential difference. But in case but since the resistance change is very small, the measurement using voltmeter or galvanometer is not possible here. So we are using a balanced Wheaton bridge principle to find the exact resistance of strain gauge. Okay, this is how the strain gauge is under pressure, or when force is exerted on strain gauge. This is how it will shows the result. Okay, this A figure shows the strain sensitive pattern and terminals when no force is applied, and this figure B shows the tensions where area narrow resistance increases, and this is high resistance path. And when compression, when that is when the strain gauge is given a tensile force, you can see the resistance will be increased, and if the strain gauge is subjected to compressive force, the resistance of the strain gauge will decrease. So from these two figure, you can simply say that if from the balanced Wheaton principle, if the resistance increases, it shows a certain voltage in one direction, and if the resistance decreases, it shows the certain amount of voltage in opposite direction, so that we can find what nature of force is exerting on the strain gauge. Okay, I think it is clear to you. So now going on to the application. So the strain gauges are used for stress analysis application. I already told that it is used for measuring the strain. Direct measurement of stress is not possible, so we are actually using strain gauges to measure the stress. I think you are already familiar it in your strength of material subject. So here actually for stress analysis, this is actually using. Okay. Okay. Then next application is diagnosis on machines and failure analysis. Diagnosis on machines and failure analysis, the strain gauge is also used. And next application is actually the vibration measurement purposes and bending and deflection measurement, compression and tension measurement, strain measurement. These all are almost similar type of application. In all the cases, actually, the stress is actually getting measured. Means strain is actually getting measured. So I think the application is somewhat clear to you. So moving on to next type of displacement sensor, it is linear variable differential transformer, that is called LVDT. So when we consider a device, we can simply see that a range is already given here, that is from minus 400 to plus 400, and also the accuracy is also given here, that is if you are getting 350, imagine if you are getting a reading of 350 here, you will get 352, or there is a chance for 352 or 348 could be the actual reading. Could be the actual reading. Doesn't mean it is not correct, but there is a chance. Okay. For just a revision of the previous subject, I am just using this simple definition. Okay. Simple statement. Okay. So when we come into linearly variable differential transformer, that is LVDT, you can see that it is a this entire setup is actually a probe. Probe means it is used as a sensor. Okay, it consists of a tip and a shaft, and in this cylinder inside it is connected with a spring, and these equipments are not much important, but we have to focus here, that is at core and coils, that is one primary coil and two secondary coil. You can see that this here it is the important process is working. So in an LVDT, it is used for measure. You can see that this is the tip. So the displacement or movement of this tip is actually the what parameter here. That is the displacement is given at this tip. Only the linear type of displacement is given at this tip, so that we will get a certain displacement. Okay. So coming into the working principle of LVDT, it is worked on principle of electromagnetic coupling principle. Okay, it works on electromagnetic coupling principle. So I think you already learned it from your 12th standard itself. What is electromagnetic coupling, or you simply know what how a transformer works. So again, I'm explaining it here. So here, what actually happens is, with the help of this cable, an alternate current is fed into the primary coil. Okay. Actually, for understanding in detail, you can refer this figure diagram. Okay. Actually, there is a primary winding, or simply primary coil. This thing is actually coil wounded over. Okay. It is shown like this in the figure, but it is actually the wounded coil, a wire wounded over this hollow cylinder. This is actually a hollow cylinder. This big one. Over that, what primary coil is wounded at the middle. This middle coil is called the primary coil, and two secondary coils, nothing but the same material itself, but it is called the secondary coil. Why it is called? Because the electric current is not given to the these secondary coils, so it is called a secondary coil. So the primary winding is actually wounded over the hollow cylinder. Okay. When the primary coil is wounded over the hollow cylinder, at a equidistantly, two secondary coils with equal number of turns and same material is wounded at a equal distance, and these two secondary windings are connected in series. I think it is clear to you. So that these two secondary windings are connected in series. Okay. Only these two secondary windings are connected in series. This primary winding is directly connected to a AC current. Okay. AC supply, alternating current supply. Okay. So when a coil is connected over an AC current, you can see that electromagnetic flux will create when AC current passes through this device. You can see that magnetic field will produce. And when the core material, so this is actually the soft iron core material. That is actually when a movable soft iron core is placed inside this hollow cylinder. That is, initially we are taking the hollow cylinder, and at the middle, primary winding is wounded, and alternating current is applied to that winding. Next, we are actually winding two secondary coils at the both ends at equal distance and equal length, so that the series, it is connected in series, and when the EMF is induced, the effect will get neutralized. That is, the EMF produced in this coil will be in opposite direction to that of the other secondary coil. Okay, the two secondary coils are connected in opposing nature of induced EMF. Okay, that is how these two windings are connected. So when a soft iron core is passed through this setup, so you have to imagine a soft iron core is passing through this hollow cylinder. Okay, so when a soft iron core is passing through this hollow cylinder, if you keep this iron core at the middle, you can see that the EMF induced due to the core and the magnetic field produced by the primary winding for the first secondary winding is almost this times magnitude. And at the same way, you can see that for the second type of secondary winding, same effect will be there. So the magnitude will be there. So since this device is connected, these two windings are connected in series and in opposing way. When the position of core is at the center, you will get a 0 as your EMF. Okay, I think it is clear. You will get only 0 EMF because both the windings produce equal magnitude of induced EMF or current. Okay, so when the core is at mid position, you can see that there is no EMF is produced in the winding. It means an output. Okay, actually here it is producing in one direction and here it is in other direction. But at the output, you are actually getting the resultant, that is plus and minus will get neutralized. But imagine if the core is moved at this position, either end, means you can imagine the core is moving to left end. You can see that most of the almost 70% of the second type of secondary winding will produce more voltage, and less than 10% of the first secondary winding will produce EMF, so that the magnitude of the second secondary winding will be higher, since the net voltage will be higher. If this is taken as positive and this is taken as negative, and you will get a resultant of positive EMF as output, so that you can measure. If you calibrate the amount of voltage to a displacement, actually this core is actually connected to a probe, you will get a displacement. So if the core is moved to this distance, actually you will get a certain amount of positive voltage, and you can measure it. And if the core is moved at right hand side direction, you will actually getting a negative voltage, which can also be calibrated, and you can say that the displacement of the core is in the opposite direction. That is how you are getting the reading. Okay, so that is how the sensing of LVDT occurs. I think it is clear. This is what I actually mentioned. This is the primary coil that is wounded at the middle of the hollow cylinder, and these two are the secondary coils, secondary 1 and secondary 2. These two are connected in series but in opposing way, and the output voltage is taken. This armature is actually nothing but the core itself. Okay, this is the schematic diagram of the process, means LVDT working. Okay, so when as I told before, the when the core or armature is moved to one end, most of the current will be produced from this type of secondary winding, that is primary second means first secondary winding. It will produce a certain amount of EMF, and if the armature is passed to or moved to other end, this coil will produce the voltage, and thus this the magnitude will be same but opposite, shows a negative reading. That is how the uh, we can detect it is a positive displacement or a negative displacement. Okay, so the applications of LVDTs are, it is used for measurement of position in servo valve applications. It is actually can be used for measurement of positions in servo motor applications, and to provide displacement feedback for hydraulic cylinders, and it is also used to control weight and thickness of medical products like tablets and pills, and for automatic inspection of the dimensions of the product you can actually use this. Why? Because what is the advantage is, actually you will get both the displacements. For most of the device you will get only one type of displacement, that but here you will get actually two types of displacement, that is positive as well as negative. So this LVDT has got a little more range of applications. Okay, so for automatic inspection of dimensions of products, it can be used to measure distance between the approaching metal during weld process, and to continuously monitor fluid level as part of leak detection system. So these are the applications of LVDT. Okay, so I hope it is clear. So what was the working principle there? It is just electromagnetic coupling. Okay, so moving on to next type of displacement sensor, it is a capacitive element based sensor. I think you know what a capacitor is. You might be learning it in your +2 physics. I think you know what a capacitor is. It looks like this, right? So you know, you already studied this equation, the equations for capacitance. The capacitance of a capacitor is actually epsilon r epsilon 0 a by d. This is the equation of capacitor, or the capacitance for a capacitor. Okay, simply epsilon r represents the permittivity of the dielectric between the plates, permittivity of the dielectric between the plates. Epsilon 0 represents permittivity of the free space. Actually epsilon r represents the relative. Okay, so next a represents the area of overlap between two plates, and next d represents the plate separation distance. Actually I can show from this diagram, that is the capacitance. Imagine this is actually two capacitor, that is a movable type capacitor, but imagine you only consider these two plates only. So imagine a capacitance here, here only. Okay, imagine this end is connected to a wire, there is no medium here. Okay, imagine this is a capacitor. For understanding I'm telling you, so imagine this is a capacitor, The capacitance of this capacitor is actually depends upon the relative permittivity between the plates. So you can see that there is a medium called air in between. So the permittivity of air is depending on the capacitance of this capacitor. If in between water was used, the permittivity of water will be used here. And in some other cases, if it is vacuum, only the that of permittivity of vacuum is considered here. Okay. So when the area of the you can see that this is actually a plate, right? This is actually a plate. So if the area of the plate increases, you can see that it is directly proportional to the capacitance. When the area of the plate increases, it will increases the capacitance. Okay. So similarly, if the distance between the plate increases, it will decreases the capacitor. You can see that the D is at the denominator, so that the increasing distance will decreases the capacitance. Okay. This is the basic principle of a capacitive based sensor. So what is the principle? It is the principle of variable capacitance. Actually, the variation of the capacitance is using here to sense the displacement. Okay. So in order to understand how it is working, means you already understand how it is working, but little more information. So if the capacitance is actually changing, it will changes the impedance. Impedance means resistance due to capacitance. Okay, capacitive impedance will change. As the same effect produced by a variable resistance, the value of changing capacitance also will make a same effect. Okay. So by measuring the output voltage by changing the different capacitance, you will get a different result for output voltage, so that you will get a required result. So by calibrating the changing capacitance value with the output voltage, you can actually measure what? The displacement of the parameter. Okay. So these capacitive element based sensors are of three types. As I told before, depending on the equation, we can change the material, dielectric material. It is the one type. We can change the dielectric material, one type of adjusting the capacitance. And we can change the area between the plates. We can change the displacement between the plates. So there are three methods for understanding the capacitance of the capacitor. So the first type is actually the change in length. Okay, changing length means okay the distance between the here you can see at this second figure you can see that the in between plate is actually moving. Okay, in between plate is actually moving. So when a external displacement is connected to this plate, you can see that a certain amount of displacement will move the plate of the capacitor, which will result a change in capacitance, which will result a change in resistance, which means impedance. Okay, and which will result a change in voltage. That is how a change in length of the or distance between the or separation between the plate actually affect the capacitance. Okay. So next is change in area. You can see in the third diagram. This plate, actually the second plate. For easiness of understanding, you can simply avoid the third plate and you can consider only first and second plate. So when you consider first and second plate, you can see that only this region is acting as a capacitor. The rest of the region is not acting as a capacitor. So if the area of plate is changed, so that is when at this end we connected a device and displacement is given, and at this direction you can simply get a variation in capacitance, thereby getting a variable impedance, thereby getting a variable voltage. So that is the second method. And in case of third method, you can simply change the dielectric medium. For that, I'm sorry, for that, uh, you can simply imagine an object, a dielectric object in between here, and I connected it with a linearly moving probe, so that when this moves, that is this, when this displacement here is changed, the dielectric medium will get into the capacitance space. Okay, in between space, it will be filled with the dielectric medium, so that you will get a variable capacitance. Okay, so I hope it is clear to you. So by varying the capacitance, you will get variable impedance, and by varying the impedance, you are actually getting variable voltage. So by calibrating that voltage with a measured parameter, you will get how much the parameter is changing. Okay, so up to here, your capacitance is over, and the applications of the capacitive element based sensors are, it's a feed hopper level monitoring. It is used in feed hopper level monitoring purpose, and in grease level monitoring purpose, and level control of liquids, metrology applications, assembly line testing, etc., are the field for application of capacitive element based sensors. So up to here, you are familiar with the four types of displacement sensor. That is, one is capacitive based sensor, the other is LVDT, linear variable differential transformer, and the other is strain gauge, and the first one was the potentiometer sensor. So I think you are familiar with the displacement type of sensors. Okay, so the next topic is position and proximity sensor.